Welcome back to the Rock Hall Debate, where we debate the 2025 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominees. In today's episode, Billy Idol.
Billy Idol. And as always, our quick disclaimer, not necessarily our personal opinions, just laying down some facts and setting a foundation for you to form an opinion and decide for yourself if you think these artists deserve to be inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. For Billy Idol, I have the green box, so I am taking the pro side to this, so I will kick it off. Let's go. William Michael Albert Broad. Billy Idol is long overdue for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. With his signature sneer, his leather-clad style, his genre-blending sound, I mean, he brought punk's edge into the mainstream and helped shape the look and sound of rock and roll in the 1980s. He wasn't just a performer, he was a cultural force, merging raw energy of punk with the hooks and production of arena rock, new wave, all while staying true to rock's rebellious spirit. He dominated a time when MTV launched, and I think that also helped skyrocket his career. He was extremely cinematic, and his videos were in heavy rotation on the network, and they were always fantastic, and he was so much fun. And I mean, going from starting in a punk band and then going into solo superstardom paved the way for punk's evolution beyond its underground roots. Songs like White Wedding, Rebel Yell, Dancing with Myself, Eyes Without a Face, just to name a few of the hits in the 80s, were spectacular. And his influence on bands down the road, Green Day, Nine Inch Nails, Trent Reznor specifically pointed to Billy Idol as one of his influences. You know, it's amazing what he did, what he stood for, what he was, what he still is, that he's still putting out music today speaks to his longevity. It's just been, I mean, he has been a cultural iconic musician for so many years. If anything almost defines rock and roll, it's Billy Idol. As far as that rock and roll rebellious feeling of,
I know. I feel that. I feel that. Billy Idol's a fun one to talk about. He's iconic in a way. You got the sneer, you got the bleach blonde hair, you got the leather, you got the fist pump. But when you break it down, the case for him being in the Rock Hall falls apart a little. There's the thing with 80s artists and the effect of MTV and output. He had a run of hits with, like you said, White Wedding, Rebel Yell, Eyes Without a Face. I mean, Eyes Without a Face, that video, incredible, all solid, relatively short peak, and he didn't maintain that momentum. We've been through Cyndi Lauper, right? Who, same idea. You know, she became huge with MTV at that point. The same point as Billy Idol. You would solidly put them in the early 80s, you know, version of MTV. And then you also had the Black Crowes thing, even though people have yelled at us on the Black Crowes video about we didn't mention some of the albums, and I feel bad. As for influence, was Billy Idol influenced by punk and new wave? Absolutely. Did he push the needle for anyone else? I mean, I guess Trent Reznor, he pushed it before.
Green
I don't
Day.
know.
I mean, I think a lot of today's even pop punk owes a lot to that, like Blink 182, like a lot of those bands that kind of came after that owe a lot to him, because he really was that ground breaker, sort of going from that rebellious punk rock sound into mainstream culture. And a lot of that did have to do with MTV. Like, it introduced him to kids at home, suburban kids at home watching MTV were like, oh my gosh, look at this dude. Like,
do you know if Billy Idol getting into the Rock Hall means that his guitar player, Steven, I don't
Steve
know the guy's,
Stevens, Steve
yeah,
Stevens. Yeah.
Steve Stevens, does he get in too? Because without him, I mean, he basically is what Billy Idol, he was the foundation of it musically, but he wasn't doing anything new. I mean, they took Generation X came up, which he wasn't Generation X. He was a boomer. He is a boomer. Check his birthday. But I feel like they latched on to something that existed and packaged that punk aesthetic into radio friendly rock, you know, which maybe is the selling albums part of this puzzle that we always talk about, you know, but it only worked for a moment. I don't feel like he redefined the genre or shifted the culture in the way other inductees have. Fun, yes. A memorable part of the MTV era, yes. Rock Hall worthy, probably not.
I mean, I almost think that in itself, like you just mentioned, is worthy of that almost being in the Hall of Fame, because he was a groundbreaker in the fact that, yes, he was able to be commercially successful and sell those albums despite being that sort of punk rock musician type that normally you wouldn't see get that kind of exposure and that kind of airplay and that kind of like everything. So I think he kind of broke down that wall for that, which then, for better or worse, opened the door for what we see today with punk pop and sort of that whole era of getting into there. But back then, I think it was a huge moment for the industry to have something like that and to have him. And like I said, MTV being what it was in its infancy, he really latched onto that and blew up with it in a way that nobody else kind of did. Like, he really rode that MTV wave as well. And I will say, we talked a little bit about this with Mariah and her acting chops that she tried to do. Billy got into a little bit of acting, and I mean, I always remember him in The Doors playing the drinking pal of Jim Morrison, Val Kilmer's character, which is always funny. And did you know a fun little fact off script that James Cameron actually had him as his first choice for the villain, the T-1000 in Terminator 2, but because of Billy's motorcycle accident, he had to recast the role. So wouldn't that have been weird? Billy Idol is like the bad Terminator? I don't know. That would have been kind of crazy to me. But it's
would
just,
he have ended up on the X-Files then?
He did end up, and actually Cradle of Love, which was one of those songs from the 90s, I think 90
creepy
actually
song.
was written for The Adventures of Ford Fairlane, the Andrew Dice Clay movie, or was featured in it, and the video kind of centered around it and all that stuff. So like, he always kind of has had that element in him too. It's just, he's a very unique individual, one of the most unique rockers I think around, especially with the longevity and what he's done and where he's come from and what all he's been able to do. His resume alone, I think, gets him in, just based on some of the things we've already talked about, and then scatter in some of these other crazy facts and things that he's done. I think it's just, he's a shoo-in. Like, he really, of all the artists I feel like we've talked about, to me, Billy Idol is one that deserves it and should 100% be in.
I feel like he's going to be a shoo-in too. Let us know what you think down in the comments. Make sure you subscribe, like, follow us, even become a member. We do some member hangs. And this next Wednesday, make sure that you check us out for Live at 9 Eastern.
Let us know what you think in the comments. Do you think Billy Idol gets in? Does he deserve to get in? Let us know what you think, and we'll see you on the next one.